Welcome to our weekly press briefing. Folks, Montana is open for business. We're unleashing the engine of economic growth, business development, and job creation that for too long has sputtered in Montana. I'm thrilled to announce today that Montana's unemployment rate dropped to an all-time low of 2.5% in January. Montana now has the fourth lowest unemployment in the United States. Total employment rose to a new record high of over 555,000 jobs, and our labor force has continued strong growth, rising to more than 570,000 workers, another all-time high. To put this in perspective, Montana's unemployment rate has dipped below 3% just 18 months since record-keeping began. 15 of those 18 months were while I've been in office. Hard-working Montanans continue to drive our state's growing economy despite severe national headwinds. Montanans are setting new records for job creation, business creation, and employment. With them in mind, we'll keep building on our pro-jobs, pro-business, pro-family agenda so that more Montanans can thrive, prosper, and achieve the American dream. Here's one example of that pro-jobs, pro-family, pro-business agenda. 3 days ago, we delivered Montanans the largest tax cut in state history, and we did it in record time. Here's what I believe to my core. Hard-working Montanans should keep more of what they earn. It's their money, not the money of government. Providing meaningful tax relief is critical, especially as inflation eats away at Montanans' paychecks. Earlier this week, we saw inflation nationally is up to 6% over this last year. Groceries are up more than 10%. Eggs are up more than 55%. Baby food is up nearly 10%. Rent prices are up, making it harder for Montanans to afford a roof over their heads. Electricity and fuel prices are up, making it harder for Montanans to heat their homes. It's harder and harder to make ends meet when prices are rising like this, driven by reckless, out-of-control federal spending. Montanans need relief. Montanans spoke loud and clear. Tax relief will help, and it's a priority. And together, we delivered. Our historic tax cuts will not only help hardworking families and small business owners to keep them more of what they earn, but it will also help create more good-paying jobs, grow our economy, and help more Montanans achieve the American dream. We made great progress in 2021 to cut Montanans' taxes, including the tax rate that most Montanans pay. Still, Montana has the highest income tax rate in the Rocky Mountain West and the 14th highest in the country. This is hard on working families and small businesses. Higher taxes means less take-home pay. Higher taxes means less job creation. Higher taxes mean a greater burden on hardworking Montanans. Higher taxes mean more of our kids leave the state. Not anymore. We cut the rate most Montanans pay from 6.9% in 2021 to 5.9%. And let me be clear. Any Montanan making $20,500 in taxable income each year will receive a permanent tax reduction. I'm often amused when critics and some members of the press charge that our tax cuts for Montanans will only benefit so-called top earners. The fact is we're cutting the income tax rate to help any Montanan who has a taxable income of more than $20,500. Any Montanan who makes $9.86 an hour of taxable income will get a tax cut. And to help lower-income, hardworking Montanans to create an incentive for more Montanans to enter the workforce, we tripled the Earned Income Tax Credit, which will further reduce taxes for lower income Montanans. The income tax cuts I proposed and signed into law build a stronger workforce. These income tax cuts also bring meaningful relief to taxpayers at every income level, because hardworking Montanans at every income level deserve a tax break. And I'm proud that we've delivered tax relief for them in the largest tax cut in Montana's history. It will make Montana an even better place for folks to live, work, and raise a family. It makes Montana a more attractive place for job creators to invest and to do business. And most importantly, it will help hardworking Montanans keep more of their money. This historic income tax cut is a win for all Montanans: workers, families, seniors, small business owners, farmers, and ranchers. The list goes on. The income tax cut also helps our state correctional officers. I heard it from them yesterday at the state prison in Deer Lodge. It was important I meet with them where they work and listen to what they have to say, which is why I brought them together for a roundtable yesterday. Morale has improved at the state prison. Recruiting has improved. Attrition has dropped. This was recognized by the correctional officers I spoke with, the labor representatives, and leadership at the state prison. That's why we're investing in the hardworking employees who serve in our correctional facilities. In March of 2022, we ratified an agreement for a $2 per hour raise for correctional officers at the state prison. In my budget for Montana families, we proposed to increase correctional officer pay by another $2 per hour. And yesterday, I proudly signed a bill to boost officer wages again. $2 per hour for at the state prison, and $3 per hour at the Montana Women's Prison and Pine Hills. It was an honor to deliver this well-deserved pay raise, which these outstanding state employees have earned and will see in their next paycheck next week. Taken together with all our budget proposals, we'll increase the starting wage for correctional officers by over 45% since the start of 2022. At the beginning of 2022, their wages were about $16.50 per hour. When we're done entering the new fiscal year in July, if the proposals are approved by the legislature, their starting wage will be just over $24 an hour. Now, there's more work to do. To get that full increase, legislators need to pass and send to my desk the budget bill, HB 2, and the state employees pay plan that we negotiated, HB 13. I'm committed to getting both of these done. I appreciate Representative John Fitzpatrick of Anaconda leading the way with the state employee pay plan that we have negotiated. Let's get this done. I also appreciate Chairman Lou Jones and the House Appropriations Committee for their work on the budget bill, HB 2. Let's keep working to improve it and get that one done too. And I appreciate Representative Mike Hopkins of Missoula for leading the effort with the long-range building appropriations bill. This bill includes our proposal to invest nearly $200 million to repair the state prison. After decades of previous administrations applying Band-Aids at best and kicking the can down the road at worst, the state prison has been left in severe disrepair. Disrepair that threatens the safety of correctional officers and inmates alike. Friends, the time for kicking the can down the road is over. Let's get this done. Montana taxpayers entrust us to be good stewards of their hard-earned dollars, and I'm proud that our budget, built for hardworking Montana families, fulfills that trust. While our budget is historic for its tax cuts, providing tax relief to Montana taxpayers at every income level, it's also fiscally responsible. It's balanced, holds the line on spending, and avoids cuts to essential services. Our budget encourages job creation, protects our way of life, and invests in a stronger Montana future. After returning $1 billion to taxpayers, we are using our surplus like any Montana family would. We're paying off our debt. We're repairing what needs to be fixed, and we're saving for a rainy day, because there are risks that are outside of our control here in Montana, risks that could jeopardize what we're getting done. We've seen what some of these risks look like: economic uncertainty, once-in-a-generation inflation, and what some economists describe as a looming recession. Just in the last week, 2 of the nation's 3 largest bank failures happened. These risks threaten the economic financial security of hardworking Montanans, and we must guard against these risks. That's why our budget doubles the state rainy day fund. It's critical we get this done. Failing to do so would expose hardworking Montana families to extreme, unnecessary risk. Facing a national economic disaster without a strong rainy day fund, we'd be left with only 2 options, neither of which are prudent. We would have to either raise taxes or cut essential services. And let me be very clear. I stand firm with Montanans in opposing higher taxes and cutting essential services, full stop. That's why I urge legislators to pass our proposal to double the rainy day fund. Getting this funding bill to my desk so we can protect the future of Montana families, let's get this done. I'm optimistic that we will get these critical bills across the finish line, just like we did with our largest tax cut in the state history. This was a historic week for Montana, with our historic tax cuts and historically low unemployment and making Montana debt-free. It's a testament what we can achieve when we work together. I'm looking forward to delivering on more of Montanans' priorities to get it done. So with that, I'd be happy to open it up with some questions. Who'd like to be first?
No one else.
Okay.
Eric Kendrick from Montana Free Press. So what, as the Appropriations Committee was working on the House Bill 2 earlier this week, one of the things they added in was money to address crowding in the state prison by potentially sending some prisoners to a CoreCivic facility in Arizona. Have you had a chance to look at that? And so are you on board with that idea? If not, does it sound to you?
Part of the reason why we put $200 million into our budget for the state prison at Deer Lodge is we have overcrowding there. So I was not surprised to see the legislature make the decision to expand capacity. The long-term solution is for us to expand Deer Lodge so we can house inmates here in the state.
What do you think about the idea of sending people out of state in the interim?
That was a decision that was made by the legislature. We were not directly involved. But it's been clear, I've heard from Director Gutkin, we're just out of capacity. That's why we've put $200 million into upgrading and expanding the capacity there in Deer Lodge.
Looking at the,
Hi, Holly. It's good to see you.
it's one of these in person. It's nice to meet you. The child tax credit that you proposed that legislators at the table for now, have you had more discussions with them about possibly reviving them?
Well, I think it's an important part of our budget for Montana families. We need strong families in the state, and I continue to advocate for this. I think it's good conservative policy to give money back to lower income families that have young kids and let them decide how to use it to raise their kids and do that. So I'm hopeful that it will get untabled and get to my desk.
Another one I'm curious about, sort of in the health and human services world, your budget had a proposal for how you would like to see the GuideStar study implemented, the threat levels that you suggested, the way that you suggested. We saw an appropriations vote subcommittee and then full appropriations, the route that they've adopted, and then we've also urged them to prepare this bill. Talk to me a little bit about why the proposal you put forward in your budget you feel is the best way to address raising those rates, sort of the best method to approach that.
Well, I think there's universal consensus between the legislature and our administration that we need to raise the rates. We've put a proposal forward. The legislature heard from a lot of constituents, and I'm looking forward to getting a proposal that gets the rates increased. The administration does not have appropriations authority, you know that. We need the legislature to act. We need to raise the rates. Do we have an online question? We'll cycle. we'll cycle back. Yes.
Kayla Smaller with the Daily Montana. Good morning. So it sounds like state budget super healthy, and yesterday I talked with the mayor of Missoula about the pluses and minuses that are happening here for local government, and he said that things are still tough budget-wise for local governments. And so I was curious about how you think about the work that state government does in relation to supporting some cities' economic engines in Montana.
Yeah, so we've really protected local budgets. You know, when we touch property taxes, for example, by raising the exemption for business equipment tax, we're backfilling that for the local municipalities from the general fund. We did that in 2021. That's what we did this week when we raised the exemption to $1 million for every small business. But not every community in the state has been as fiscally responsible as the state has been. We've seen some of the numbers from third-party analysis. Some municipalities have seen their spending grow up to 50 to 70% faster than population and inflation. That is the root cause for high property tax locally. Now, we knew that we had to give Montanans relief on property tax, and that's why we proposed, and then I signed into law, these direct rebates to individual families for property tax relief. But the long-term solution is to bring increased accountability for local decision-making, spending that's going on, that's really raising the property taxes long-term. Yes?
Thank you, Governor. Jonathan Amberry, Montana Television Network. I was curious, you alluded to you'd like to see the budget bill HB2 continue to move forward, and you said potentially to keep working on it and making it better. And I was curious if you had any specific concerns about the shape that it's in right now, or anything specifically that when you say to make it better, any particular idea that you have in mind?
Yeah, so we put forward our budget after being in consultation with all of the various agencies across the state. We think our idea, as we proposed it originally, it was right on target. That being said, the legislative process is important to hear from stakeholders. There aren't any particular changes that we're seeking, but that's really the role of the legislature to tweak it. I think better is always possible. I'm sure they'll come up with some good ideas. Anything online? Okay. Holly.
This is for another reporter.
I told you I'd come back to you.
I might butcher this a little bit, but so you have House Bill 462, which provides us some of the marijuana revenues and where those go. And then there's a lot of other efforts going through. So Representative Mercer has one to put some in the general fund. There's Lang's on using some habitat money for road repairs. A lot of ideas are in there. I wonder your thoughts on keeping this money going into sort of special revenue accounts versus general fund, and what you'd like to see there.
Well, we've put our budget forward, and we've gotten a big piece of the work done with the tax relief that we passed this week, but there's still more we to do, and I highlighted some of those in my comments. I mean, the disaster mitigation fund is a critical priority for us. Fixing the state prison, that hasn't been approved yet. $300 million for mental health, both to rebuild Warm Springs and bring community-based care back. So those are our priorities. If you add up all the spending ideas that are circulating in the legislature right now, I think the remaining surplus is spent 2 or 4 times over. So we're going to have to sort through that, because in the end we need a strong ending fund balance so that we can be protected and double the rainy day fund so that we don't end up having a financial crisis.
With the marijuana revenue specifically, do you have concerns if those went other places besides where you'd like to see them in the legislation you're working with, or if it's something that the general fund might be acceptable?
Well, the decision process we went through was pretty straightforward. There was some discussion of sending them to Habitat Montana. Conservation is a huge priority for us. We've been out highlighting some of the work we've done, including inventorying access deserts across the state. But in consultation with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, Habitat for Montana and Pittman-Robertson, we have more money than we can spend. It's fully funded. That being said, we have a crisis in addiction and mental health. So we made the decision, our proposal was to take the money, the revenue that came from marijuana, this new drug that's being offered for recreational use and target the revenues for mental health and addiction recovery. We've done that through the Heart Fund, and I think that's the right way to approach it, given FWP was fully funded for conservation. Yes?
About some of the legislation that might land in court, obviously that can happen any year and did last time around. How much money do you think is reasonable for the state to spend defending?
There's always been a line item to defend the actions of the administration. Prior administrations, our administration, and I'm relying on the experts and the budget team to tell me what that number is. I don't have a specific figure for you today, but we're supportive of the proposal we put forward. Yes, Jonathan.
I was curious, Governor, if you had at this time, I know that your administration and DPHHS specifically has been working on the behavioral health framework. I know there's probably going to be a bill with Representative Keenan coming out at some point. I was curious if you had any indication as to when we might expect to see that framework drawn out a little more specifics. We're starting to get towards that time of the session.
Yeah, and we'll have to get back to you with specifics. I think, again, the administration does not have appropriations authority. $300 million for mental health is a lot of money. The legislature rightfully doesn't want to fully give the administration the spending authority. So it's likely we'll create a commission like we did in the ARPA funding that includes legislators and representatives from the administration, because we're not going to get it all buttoned up and done by the end of the session. So creating a commission that could consider proposals with continued legislative input and delegating the appropriations authority to that commission is probably the way we're going to proceed. Now, we need the legislature to, put a bow on that and get it to my desk, but that's the general approach that we're taking. We're not going to have the full mental health plan done by the time we get to the end of the legislative session.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
I have one more.
Okay, Holly. Well, you should come more often.
So starting April 1st, the health department is going to undertake redetermination for people covered under Medicaid in Montana. I'm wondering, you've been putting together plans, working on this for some time now. How do you feel about the sufficiency of the plan they have in place to make sure people aren't wrongly losing coverage, or if they are no longer qualified, are connected to other avenues where they can find health insurance?
Yeah, so just for background, which you're aware of, during this federal pandemic emergency order, states have not been allowed to disenroll people from the program for any reason, even if they don't qualify. So starting April 1st, there is a process that DPHHS will be using. We need to make sure we don't disenroll anybody who's qualified, but there are many people who have gone back to work. They have income that doesn't qualify them for the benefit, but they've continued to receive it. We're working closely with DPHHS to make sure we're fair and equitable in how we do this, and we're not going to rush into it. It's about a year-long process to go through all the enrollees and figure out who qualifies and make sure they get the benefits, and the ones that don't qualify are helped with other programs or moved along. Okay, great. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again in another week.